I'm going to show you how to knit a simple garter stitch scarf. Garter stitch is great to use for a scarf because all you do is knit every row and both sides are the same. Cast on the number of stitches that you want and just start knitting. I'm going to show you how to do that now. I've already cast on my stitches and here we go. For the first row, we're going to knit every stitch. Going to keep knitting until we get to the end of the row. And this is our last stitch. Going to knit that off, pull that tail down, turn the work around. Now I'm using a circular needle just because I love circular needles because you don't have to worry about one of them dropping. So we're going to start the second row and we're going to, as always, slip the first stitch and just continue knitting. The reason that you slip the first stitch is that it makes for a much neater selvage edge. So we're going to keep knitting again till we get to the end of this row. And when we get to the last stitch, I always knit it backwards. That's putting the needle through the back of the stitch and knitting it off. That tightens the stitch and again makes for a better selvage. So now we're going to just turn the work around and start knitting the next row. We're going to slip the first stitch and just continue knitting. And this is all you have to do to make a scarf. You knit every row all the way across, you turn and you knit the row back. So you just continue doing this for as long as you want your scarf to be. I'm just about done knitting, but I wanted to take a few minutes just to show you how beautiful these edges are, and that comes by slipping the first stitch and knitting the last stitch backwards. I'm going to show you once again how to do that. You simply slip the first stitch off as though you were going to knit it. Simple. And then you go ahead and you knit all the next stitches until you come to the end of the row. And coming to the last stitch, you simply put the needle in the back of the stitch instead of the front and then just knit it off as usual. Now, in case you're wondering what yarn I used, this is 2 strands of very thin yarn which I'm knitting together. There's a rust color and an off-white, and I think it makes a beautiful variegated pattern. I'm using a size 8 needle. You can use whatever size needle you want to fit the yarn that you want. I always like to use up ends of yarns this way because A, it gets rid of yarn, and B, it makes a one-of-a-kind whatever you're making because no one else will have thought to use these 2 yarns together the way you did. So I hope you will try that. And now we're just about ready to bind off the end of the scarf. The bind off is very simple on the garter stitch. You slip the first stitch, you knit the next stitch, you pass the stitch over, and you continue on knitting every stitch. Because you've knit every row, you're going to do the knit bind off. There's also a purl bind off. You can see how to do that by watching my video on that. But for this, we're just going to knit and pass over every stitch. Don't do it too tight. Keep your hands relaxed and just keep going till you get to the end of the row. And when you get to that last stitch, once again you're going to knit through the back, put it on the needle, pass the last stitch over, take your scissors and just cut your thread like so. You just take your needle and pull that thread through, and you are done with your scarf. Now if you want to add fringe, you can. You can use this as part of it. Otherwise, you would just weave this thread through the bottom. And that is a garter stitch scarf. It couldn't be easier, and it's really fun, and you should try it if you haven't.